Om Ganadipataye Namaha. Namaste, and welcome to the second episode of our series, A New Beginning. Sometimes people ask me, well, what are you teaching anyway? What is it called? What's the name of it? And it's difficult to reply. Sometimes I call it the esoteric teaching. Sometimes I call it the Vedic Path or Sanatana Dharma. There's so many names. But really, if you go back to the original literature, the Vedas, there is no name. Now that's very strange, isn't it? Because every religion, every spiritual path, every method has a name and also a founder. Buddhism was founded by Buddha and so on. So this is very strange. Why doesn't this religion, this culture actually, spiritual culture, have a name? And the answer is that this culture, this path is so ancient that in the ancient days it was spread all over the world and there was no other religion. That's why the Vedas, Veda simply means knowledge. It's like, you want knowledge? Here it is, Veda. Know this to be true. So Vedic knowledge was passed down from the ancient sages. Who were they? Well, we don't really know. It's so old that the origins are lost in prehistory. But nobody discovered this. Nobody made this up. This is another reason why the founders aren't mentioned. They didn't originate it. They saw it. It's said that the ancient mantras were seen by the sages. Not heard, not composed, not written down, not made up. They were seen. And how is that? Well, we know from modern science now that the Big Bang, if you accept that theory, was accompanied by an enormous sound wave, the primordial vibration. And because of this sound, the material that came into being at that time, the plasma, superheated, ionized gas, that was all there was at that time, was gradually formed and coalesced into stars and galaxies and so on that we see today. So this sound cannot be heard, but it can be seen by one who has that vision, that power. So the ancient sages had the power to see these sound vibrations, these mantras. And every shloka in the Vedas is called a mantra, not just a verse or a sentence or a paragraph. It's a mantra. And what does mantra mean? Man means mind, and tra comes from triate, which means to free or deliver. So that which frees the mind, or even better, frees us from the mind, is mantra. And so you just have to try it. There's no way to explain it. Because people say, well, how could I exist without a mind? Very good point. Without the mind, we don't exist. Because existence is material beingness. And the whole idea of the Vedic path is to free us from material existence. This is called moksha, deliverance, salvation, freedom. And this is the aim. So all the Vedic mantras have this same aim, to give us moksha. Well then, someone might say, if this moksha means essentially a oneness with the Absolute, why is it that the Vedas, the original Vedas themselves, prescribe worship of deities, such as Indra, Vishnu, Shiva, and so on? That is duality. That is the difference. That is still material being. You have to have a body, you have to have a mind to do these rites, these rituals. And the answer is, you have to begin from where you are. You cannot simply jump up to the platform of non-duality and attain enlightenment just like that. It would be wonderful if we could. But in practice, we can't. There's a wonderful saying, which is attributed to Yogi Berra, the sardonic wit of the Yankees for many years. He said, in theory and practice are the same. In practice, they're different. Why? Because no theory can account for all possibilities. And the world is always changing. Objects are always shifting, moving here and there, transforming into other forms, and so on. So no theory, no matter how good it is, can account for all possibilities. That means when we have a theory, such as yoga, for example, it has to hit the main points. It has to hit the reality of the majority of people. If we speak only to a tiny minority, that will not benefit the people in general. And we also run the danger of elitism, which is a real problem in religion, especially today. So, in theory, it's possible for any living being to recognize that soham, I am that, tattvamasi. So that means attainment of self-realization. In theory, anyone can attain just by giving up the mind and the body and the karma and everything. But in practice, it's very difficult. It hardly ever happens. In fact, the only case that I know of is Ramana Maharshi. At age 16, he spontaneously realized all these things. But who can say we're on that same platform? Anybody? Not me. I had to work for a lifetime to realize these things. I had to work very hard. And most people are also distracted. They don't have the luxury that I have of an independent income and the ability to dedicate full time to the spiritual path. Most people have to work, they have family obligations, they have friends, they have all kinds of hobbies and possessions to take care of, a house and a car. It's a lot of responsibility, a lot of work. So that doesn't leave much time. That means they can't dedicate their full time and energy to pursuit of self-realization. So in those circumstances, which is what the majority of the world finds themselves in, we need a method that begins from duality and gradually advances toward realization of non-dual, self-realization. So what is that method? Well, what do we have in duality? How do we experience? We experience that we have a mind and we have an ego within that mind, an identity, an idea of who we are. And that idea of identity is grounded in the body. I am the son of these parents. I am a member of this family. I live in this town or this part of the world. Or I belong to this culture, this religion, this philosophy, or whatever. On and on and on. We are always defining ourselves in terms of our identifications. But the identifications are not who we really are. They're more or less dreams, just thoughts. They're temporary. They come into being and then they fade away. So they're not who we really are. But at least they are our sense of identity for now. So we have to start from that point. We can't just arbitrarily drop everything and sit under a tree like Buddha. It won't work. People try it and they fail. So what is the sure path? Well, it's given in the Vedas. You perform these rites, you chant these mantras, you do these sacrifices, these pujas, you perform this charity, and so on and so forth. Many, many instructions are given. How to live in the world, but slowly, slowly advance toward liberation. Now, let's be realistic. Most of us are not going to make it in this lifetime. The majority, the vast majority, are not going to make it, and we're going to have to take another birth. So that means we have to create karma for our next birth that will bring us closer to self-realization. Otherwise, we're wasting our time. So what happens in this life is driven by the thoughts, words, and activities of the previous lives. And this is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha means ripe. Ripe. When the fruit is ripe, it falls from the tree automatically, as Newton found out. Bonk. So when our karma is ripe, then things happen automatically. Sometimes we don't plan for them, we don't expect them, or maybe we even don't want them, but they happen anyway. This is prarabdha karma. And when an astrologer does your birth chart, that's what he's reading. He's reading your prarabdha karma, the karma that you bring into this life from past lives. Then, in this life, the activities, words, and thoughts that we perform create karma for our next life. That means the best use of this present lifetime is to create good karma that brings us closer to self-realization. How do we do that? That's what this is about. There are plenty of people teaching non-dual philosophy and self-realization, meditation and all that for those who are ready. But what does it mean that you're ready? It means that your karma has ripened to the point where you can give it all up. Now, like I said, most people are not ready for this. Most people are not qualified for self-realization, at least full self-realization. Even, as the Buddha said, even someone who attains stream entry still has at least another lifetime or maybe up to 7 lifetimes to go. So this nameless path is to make you ready. Om Tat Sat. Om Harihi Om.